Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. Now I'm in the middle of a project which I've made this segmented ring and it's been sanded to 600. I'm waiting for some parts before I can carry on with the project I want because there's going to be other pieces added to this as well. But I'm undecided on a finish and I don't want to put a wax finish on this. I'm not sure what an oil finish will come up like. Now, I do know that a shellac finish will probably be quite nice, but it does take a lot more work. Now, it's been a while since I've used any shellac, and I usually do two types. There's what they call the blonde shellac, which is what I had in here, and I also do the brown shellac, which is more of a darker colour. Now, a lot of people use shellac when they do what they call shine juice, which is basically a mix of shellac and an oil so that it lubricates it when you put it on. I've never had much success with the shine juice, and I think a lot of that is that when you use it, you've got to put it on the lathe, spin it up nice and fast so you get that nice shine, but then you've probably got to leave it about 24 hours for the oil to fully cure. So you can't just go back to it and carry on working straight away. So it's not as quick as what a lot of people think. With shellac, I tend to mix my own, and the reason I do that is because it's very, very cheap. It does have a small shelf life once it's mixed, but you only need to really mix the sort of quantities that you're likely to use. I've only ever bought my flakes off of eBay so far. Hopefully I'm going to put some details on the side here of the current prices that I can find on eBay, just so you get an idea of roughly what sort of the costs are. Now, this bag I've had for probably a good year or two. As you can probably see there, I've not even used half of this. It's a 250 gram bag, so it will last you quite some time. As I'd used this before, it had a lot of traces of shellac in the bottom there, still old stuff that was in there, and the way you clean this out is just purely simply put a bit of denatured alcohol or methylated spirits if you're in the UK in there, let it dissolve the shellac and then rinse it out. With using denatured alcohol, methylated spirits, it will dissolve in the air, so you will find that even in with these bottles you will start to lose alcohol over time. Also, what I did with these bottles when I first got them, I've got several of them, I marked up a couple of measurements, so I've got a good guide. Now, the mix that I tend to do is a 4-to-1 mix, and what that means is what I put in millilitres. So for example here, if I put 100 millilitres of the alcohol in, I will then put in 25 grams of the actual shellac flakes. In the UK, if we buy methylated spirits, it's always this purple. I was lucky some time ago that when I bought some, I actually found some clear. Now, I don't think the purple will stay in there long term, so it will dissolve away and hopefully shouldn't leave any colour cast, but I've tended to use that when I use the brown flakes. Here, as you'll see, I'm going to just put in 100 millilitres of the alcohol. I'm just short there, which I'm not too bothered about. Now, it's not an exact science to how strong you've got to mix this. So here I'm just looking for 25 grams. Now, it's a bit awkward trying to put that into there. The best way I have found is just take a piece of paper and roll it up into a funnel, and then that way I can place that in the top there, and the easiest way on here then is to just let them fall down there. If your flakes are too big, they might get caught in the funnel, so just check. So I hope you can see that they're now all submerged. This should take around 24 hours to dissolve, and I will put the lid on here. Just every now and then give them a bit of a shake, just so that you agitate them, so they don't all get stuck together. What I find is that if I just do that maybe once every 15 minutes over the next couple of hours, it all helps. Now, when this is actually ready, I certainly don't want to be putting it straight on here to start with, because I really do want to do a test piece to see what this is going to come out like. So I've got a couple of pieces of the same wood which is beech and padauk. I'm going to just glue these together, and then I will sand these down to 600 as well. So I've just got one flat surface so that I can do a trial with this first. So it's been 2 days since I mixed this up, and just out of interest, about 9 hours after I'd done the mix, it was literally at this state where it's fully dissolved in there. I believe the shelf life on this is possibly 2 or 3 months before you probably really need to throw it away and mix up some more. So don't go doing a whole massive bottle if you're never ever likely to use it. There's the 2 pieces of wood. I did glue them together. On my bench sander, I've just quickly sanded over the whole lot first of all, and then I've just hand sanded the top right the way down to 600, so it's exactly the same as what this is. There's lots and lots of French polishing videos online, and I'm nowhere saying that I am some form of a French polishing expert. I'm just looking for a simple way to apply this to hopefully come up with a really nice finish. That's my 2 pieces of wood, which is what I want to do a test piece on. To apply this, the best way is to create what they call either a pad or a rub. There's various names for it, and what that consists of is having something in the middle starting off like that, all squashed up, which acts basically as a reservoir to hold all your shellac. And after that you then wrap another piece of cloth around it so it's really tight, hopefully end up with a nice smooth base. And I've got here a couple of lint free cloths which I've got access to, and they do say you want something as tightly woven as possible because it just leaves less marks. You will also need some form of an oil, because anybody who's applied shellac, especially on the lathe, will know that it does dry fairly quickly. It starts clogging up, so that when you do put a cloth over, even with more shellac, that it starts sticking and literally ripping all the finish up. And it doesn't really matter on which oil. I mean, I have in the past used boiled linseed oil, and I've also got some pure tung oil. Both should work well. The boiled linseed oil may well just dry a little bit quicker. You want something that doesn't dry too quick, because otherwise it then doesn't act as a lubricant, but you don't really want something that's hanging around for a long time that's not going to dry off. So in this case, I'm just going to put just a small amount of boiled linseed oil in a tub that I can get access to. I'm just going to fold that up like that. This cloth is folded into a quarter, and that's just really for the size of it. So the idea is I can then use it something like that, and this is more ideal because I'm not going to be doing anything big sizes. It's going to be that, or in this case I'm just going to use this. So the idea is to start with, and you will use a lot of this to start with, is to literally pour loads into the reservoir first. That may well not even start coming through, and you can also load it from the other way as well. And it's now starting to come through there. Now I've also got a bag here, and that's just really a plastic bag, so that when I've finished I can put this back into the plastic bag. It shouldn't hopefully dry out, and I can then reuse it again another time. Also load this up this way. The idea on this then is to, because it's the first coat, it's going to act a bit like a sanding sealer, and I've just loaded loads on there. Now that's had no oil or anything, that's already drying off fairly well. I don't know how well that shows on there, but even with just one coat on there, I mean, hopefully you can see that the finish shellac produces, and that's just neat shellac there. There's been no oil or anything like that. Now when people use what they call shine juice, they will have mixed an oil in with a shellac. People do different quantities. They will usually say take a shellac mix like this, add So that will be one part. Add 1 part more alcohol, which will be your denatured alcohol or methylated spirits, and then 1 part of something like boiled linseed oil. But what you're really doing there, you're taking your original shellac, which already contains the alcohol, so you're thinning it down a lot more, and then adding it so that 1/3 of the entire mix then is full of oil. What a lot of people have found is that the oil, because it's only acting as a lubricant, you do not need so much, and therefore it just sits there on the surface and just takes so long to dry. With the shellac on its own, I mean, that is now already touch dry. But if I go over this now, what it's going to do is, because this is still soft, it's also going to then start clogging up and making it a lot harder work and just ruin the finish. So the best way there is with the oil. In this case, I'm just putting a dab on my finger, and hopefully you can see, I don't know whether it shows on there, I've literally put a small dab on there. And at the same time as well, you can even apply a bit of oil on the applicator. So now if I rub it in, this will still be applying more shellac to it, but because I've got the oil on there, it's acting as a lubricant so it doesn't stick. And as you go over like this all the time, you're just adding more and more shellac to it. Now what I find is that when I've used this in the past is now I'll leave that for 5-10 minutes to dry off like the first application did, and then I'll apply a bit more oil on and then go over again, so that I'll just keep slowly building the whole surface up, and in the end it will probably be something like at least 10 coats. And just a touch more oil, and because you don't want much oil, that's where it's good to have it in a little pot like this. Just put some dabs on with your finger, and then apply more shellac. And I will probably top this up from time to time. And what I find as well is that just carry on rubbing it in like this until you start feeling it sticking a bit. Do circles and then go along the grain, and then change to circles again. Now doing a shellac finish is a lot more work than if I'd say just put a wax on there, but I think when you'll find when I finish this off with quite a few coats that the finish on here is probably far superior to a lot of other finishes. So I'll carry on doing what I've been doing and then come back when I've built this up. Now I've been polishing this piece on and off for probably about half hour or so, so it's had several coats on there. And if I can get this show on the camera properly, hopefully you can see. It's a bit of a job too. There you go. Hopefully you can see what sort of finish it's got. And I've got to say, I'm really impressed with it. So it's gone from bare wood like that to that. And that's why I like shellac. So it's quite easy to put on. It does take a lot of time doing all the work. It's not a clean job. If you don't wear gloves, you do get coated in it. So that's actually quite a hard wearing finish. I mean, that's only just been finished probably about half hour ago. You could really do with probably maybe one or two more coats to go over there to really sort of bring it to a nice finish, and then leave it fully to dry and to cure properly before it gets buffed up. And you can then even apply wax polishes and everything over the top of it, but that does give a really nice base coat, and hopefully you can see why I do like a shellac finish if you put the effort into it. To me, that's a very good test piece, and I will use it for my main project. So for those who have never used shellac before, especially mixing your own, hopefully you can see how cheap, quick and easy it is. And because of the price, if you don't use it all and have to throw it away, well, it's not that much money. And the rub, which as I said before, I've just got stored in a plastic bag like that, so it will keep moist. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next project video.